All right, so I just got back from seeing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. Thundering lightning out there. Sorry if you can hear that. But I don't know if the mic is picking it up. But anyway, besides the point. I literally just got back like 20 minutes ago from seeing Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, which I've really been looking forward to. I'm a huge fan of the books. I was hoping to do maybe a video about them and their impact at some point. But I'm planning that currently, trying to figure that all out. So I am super happy with how this film turned out. Sorry, I'm looking at notes on my phone if you're wondering. There's that thunder and lightning again. I am incredibly happy with how this film turned out. I was hoping it was going to be good with the talent involved, with like Guillermo del Toro, and the director's name escapes you at the moment. This film was really good overall. Really, really good. I would say as a horror film, and I wasn't sure what to expect as a PG-13 horror movie. Obviously, okay, so if you're not familiar with it, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark is based off a series of kids' books from the 80s and 90s. There are 3 books. They're really known for their artwork by, I believe the artist's name is Alvin Schwartz. That's really what they're known for. The stories are great. They're urban legends and things like that from all over the world. But really what they're known for is the terrifying art that comes with them. And it makes the stories scarier because of that. And a lot of people were concerned with how it was going to translate. Was it going to translate as well when you're doing a movie adaptation of like a series of short stories that are written, when you read the books now, which I have them here, when you read them now, they're very simple. Again, if it wasn't for the images in them, people I don't think would have as strong a memory of them. Not to say the stories are badly told. They're not. They're told really, really well. They're just very simple. So I think the images that tie along with it really made an impact. But I'm rambling, and let's get to the actual movie. So that's what it's based off of. And the movie itself is really good. A lot of people were concerned because it wasn't tied to the stories in a way that a lot of people thought it should be. A lot of people thought it should be an anthology, basically. They thought it should be a movie with a series of small vignettes for individual stories. But what they instead did was tied a lot of the stories together into one big story. And the idea is that the basic plot of the movie is that this group of kids end up in this haunted house. I'll try to be as spoiler-free about the movie as possible, unless it's already kind of been talked about on the trailer or something like that. But basically a group of kids go find their way into this haunted house. In there, they find this book where the book talks about all these scary stories. There's this, urban legend of this woman named Sarah Bellows who was there, and the movie gets into more detail about who she was and everything like that. But that's how it starts. They find her book, which tells a series of scary stories, and the book starts writing the stories themselves, or itself, I guess. The book starts writing these individual stories, and they start kind of revolving around the kids in the movie. And that's the basic premise. And so because of that, you get the stories from the book told in a way that's appropriate for the movie. Some stories are different, some stories are almost identical, some of the images that go with different stories are tied to different things, and all that is there, but in essence, what the movie is a representation of kind of what those books felt like to read as a kid. I definitely know that my mom was kind of against them. Hi, Mom, sorry if you're watching. But she was like, I remember when I brought them home from the library in elementary school one time, she was just like horrified by the images. And that's what this movie does. It's a PG-13 movie, and the past 10 years or so, PG-13 has kind of been lackluster. Not always, but a lot of horror movies that, there was that string of horror movies in the early 2000s that were aiming at a PG-13 audience, and they kind of sucked. The film overall is super effective. Like, it pushes that PG-13 pretty intensely. There are a lot of scares, and a lot of them are earned in the movie. There are a few jump scares that are kind of cheap. There's one or two. There's even a screen pop jump scare, which I was like, really? I always hate when movies do that, because it's like the cheapest form. Not only is it a jump scare where there's like high, intense noises and music. There are a few scares in this movie that are kind of the typical jump scare where it's like, boom, 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 really loud music and noises. But there's one of those, and on top of that, it's a pop-up scare. It's towards the end of the movie, and it's pretty, telegraphed, which kind of makes it worse in a way. But it's one of those scares where you used to see them on, like, internet videos all the time, where, like, something, you'd be looking at something, and then all of a sudden in the frame, something pops up, and it's really scary, and oh my god, it's intense. There's one of those in this movie, which kind of sucked. But those few things are they're very few and far between. Like, the movie takes its time to be really scary. Like, there were a few, again, without getting into spoilers, there's one in particular that really takes its time before it gets to the scare. And it builds tension really well. And, like, again, I'm watching a movie, a PG-13 horror movie based on a series of children's books, and I was like I was waiting for it, because it was really, really, really well crafted. So yeah, this movie is intense at times. That said, I don't feel like it ever goes beyond its source material. Like, a lot of people will look at this and be like, oh, it's too scary for kids. And I disagree. I mean, it adheres to what those books were, which was scary, but not so scary that kids couldn't watch them. I definitely think this is a great introductory horror movie for kids. For kids who are kind of wanting to get into horror movies, or, even people who aren't really big into horror movies who are adults. Like, this is a great, great introduction to that. I actually think the entire time I was watching the movie, I was thinking this would be a great double feature with Trick or Treat, the anthology horror film that, has become such a big cult classic now. And I know that's an R-rated movie, but it just gets that atmosphere of Halloween and kind of, scary but fun scary all right. And that's what this movie does too. It's totally fun scary, and it takes place at Halloween, and which is weird because it was released in August, but that's okay. Maybe by the time Halloween rolls around, we'll get it on DVD and I can own it, which will be awesome. But yeah, it gets that vibe of being just creepy really, really well, which I was happy with. The other problem I have with the movie, so let's talk about some of the positive stuff. The cast is really good. Nobody feels like nobody feels like they're phoning it in. Nobody feels like they're too over the top. All the kid actors are really, really good. I mean, they're probably somewhere between 18 and, kid actors, are really good in the movie. They work really well. There are those kind of archetype characters, but they're really well-rounded archetypes, which I'm not sure if that makes sense. But yeah, basically the idea is like, yeah, these are these characters, these placeholders. There's the funny kid, there's this, there's that. But they're not just like one note, like, haha, he's the funny kid. They're really well-rounded characters. So that was really good. And it makes you care about the characters. This movie has stakes. Again, not going into too much detail, but when people die, they're dead. Like this movie, it doesn't have like an ending where everything's okay. Again, I'm not going to talk about what the actual ending is, but it doesn't have one of those resolutions where they're like, well, it's a PG-13 movie based on kids' books, we have to resolve it. Again, just like the books, some of those stories end very, very darkly, and not everything has a happy ending in this movie. So, definitely a positive there, and something I wasn't completely expecting. The way the story is told, not the most original. A group of kids harm thing, and then like things start happening to them, blah 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 blah. It's told really, really well. Like it's very, very, very solidly told. And yes, again, like the story isn't so original that like, oh my gosh, it's mind blowing what they've done with this. But it's just really well done. It's really good and really, really solid. So I highly recommend seeing the movie just for that as well. You'll never be bored. It's not like when the scares aren't happening, the story's dull or anything. I cared about the characters. I cared about where the story was going. Even though it's kind of like you take a very base thing, kids going into a haunted house and the things that happen to them afterwards, it's really well crafted. The film is also a period piece. So it takes place in 1968. And at first I saw that, I was like, oh, that's interesting. because the books are so timeless, it's weird to set it into one time period. But I also understand why they did it, because the stories fit in better with an older time period where people don't have cell phones, they don't have this, they don't have that. But one of the things that I will say is that the time period's not useless. They totally utilize that really, really, really well. So again, it takes place in 1968 with Nixon and the draft and everything like that. And, with tension in the country and a lot of those points, it's not just window dressing. A lot of those points come into play with the movie to some degree. And it just makes the world feel more well-rounded. Yeah, we're dealing with the supernatural stuff, but they bring in some of those real-world issues. Albeit, it's not the main focus. It's not like Nixon's a character or anything in the movie. But it's fascinating to watch that and see, oh, okay, so yeah, we're going on this weird journey of supernatural stuff, but we're also tying it into real-life things, and there's a point to that. And I like that. I like that a lot. Oh, to get back to... the other thing that's really cool about this movie is it's definitely got an 80s vibe. So, and not like Stranger Things where it's like, oh, it's set in the 80s. No, I mean, like I said, it takes place in the 60s. But it's got that vibe of a movie you would have seen in the 80s, where even though it's a kids' movie, something like Gremlins or Monster Squad to some degree, which is, a bit more of a horror comedy, but still, like, it treats its characters and its situations like those movies do, where they're very well grounded and they're very, like, they don't talk down to kids, nothing's too scary or too dark or too whatever. It plays like one of those movies, and it works really well because of that. And on top of that, in the very 80s vibe, there is a bully in this movie who is just a complete insane person. Like they should have got this kid to play the bully in It. Not to say that the It 2017 bully was bad. He was great, but like this kid is like terrifying, and he's not in the movie that much, but he's like, you see at the very beginning, you're like, oh, this kid's unhinged and creepy and weird, and like it works. He's scary, and he works really well. And again, it kind of ties into that. It feels like the director and Guillermo del Toro and everybody who worked on this film wanted it to have that vibe and bring back those kind of kid-friendly, in quotes, horror movies where, yeah, you're not going to see people completely eviscerated or torn to pieces or anything like that. Although a lot of the deaths in this movie are pretty dark. There were things I was like surprised they got away with in this movie. I don't want to spoil, but there were moments where I was like, holy crap! Like what? That's insane. This is PG-13, right? So yeah, definitely moments in the movie that are pretty crazy. But I still don't think it's pushing the boundaries too much. It's got that 80s kids movie vibe. So if you'd let your kids watch Gremlins, or like I said, Monster Squad. I'm looking over at my movies right now. I'm trying to think of some of the other The Gate, or things like that. You totally can go see this movie with a family. There are no, as I wrote here on my notes, there are no kid gloves. This movie does not pull any punches. It is not treating kids like, it doesn't talk down to kids. It doesn't look at kids and be like, well, this is too much for you, so, we're going to tone the books back. No, it embraces that fully. It lets the film be scary. Even to somebody like me who's seen a billion horror movies, there are still really tense moments. Now, that said, there are some downfalls. I don't think I'm... so, spoilers for, like, the next, I don't know, a minute, maybe, something like that, 30 seconds. If you absolutely want to know nothing about this movie, then I'm going to briefly touch on something, but it's something that's already been in the trailers. There is one monster they created for the movie specifically, and it's called the Jangly Man. And it ties into another story. I won't spoil what that is. It's a fairly famous one from the books. But he as a whole is the least scary monster in the movie. Which is a bummer. And when that monster is introduced to whatever's kind of going on at the moment, he's kind of the one who's not he's not as effective some of the other creatures and the effects in the movies. And a lot of people I've seen kind of complain because it's, oh, the CGI is bad. I don't think the CGI is terrible. I mean, you can tell it's CGI, but it's not poorly done or like poorly rendered or anything like that. It works within the movie. It's very stylized. It's more just that the creature isn't scary. The other creatures are unsettling and disturbing and scary and weird. But when that one is introduced, he's kind of lackluster. And it's a bummer because it's very late in the movie that he's introduced. So again, if you if you've seen the trailer, you've already introduced that the jangly man is in there, but he's kind of the weakest part. The other thing that I have a problem with in this movie is again, without getting into spoilers. Sorry, I've said that a couple times in this video, but there's a lot of things I want to talk about. Maybe if there's interest, I'll do a spoiler video too. But the ending is kind of a sequel bait ending. It ends in a way that feels almost like a studio note to some degree. Like the filmmakers were like, this is how we want to end the movie. Like I said, there are consequences in the movie. Things happen. But it feels like the studio kind of went, well, yeah, but you gotta end it with some sort of positivity. And that's kind of what this is. It's kind of got one of those moments of like, okay, I see what you're doing. It's, you're setting up for if you make another one, which apparently this movie's done really well, so I'd be surprised if they didn't. Plus, they have plenty of more stories to pull from. And it's not that I'm against a sequel. I would actually welcome one if it's done as well as this one is, because I'd love to see some of the other stories, like some of my favorites. The Thing from, not the John Carpenter movie, but there's a story called The Thing that is one of my favorites. And I'd love to see like an adaptation of that or something like that. But kind of the way they ended is like, it felt like the studio wanted them to A, set up a sequel, and B, kind of leave it positive. Like, it's PG-13 still, so there has to be some positivity. Granted, again, it's not like a magical wrap-up where everything's fine and back to normal. It's not like that. But it is kind of, kind of unfortunate that it's kind of sequel baity. But I think that's just about it. Those are kind of my feelings. Overall, I highly recommend the movie. Those problems aside, with some of the one monster being kind of lackluster and the ending being whatever, and then a few cheap jump scares. I mean, overall, the movie's really, really effective at what it is, which is a accessible horror movie. It's scary, it's creepy, it's tense. It's not going to talk down to the audience. It's smart. It's well crafted. Like I said, the story kind of has we've been there, we've done that type of feel to it. But it's kind of like comfort food. There's like a good, I know what Burger King is going to offer me, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy a Whopper every once in a while. And that's kind of what that is. Yeah, I know kind of where things are going to go, beats are going to go, but it's still really, really fun to watch when it's really well done. And this movie is incredibly well crafted and exceeded my already high expectations. I know some people kind of had low expectations. Everything I saw about this movie, all the, I tried to avoid as much as possible, but any behind the scenes stuff, all the trailers, all that stuff, I was really, 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 really looking forward to this movie. And I finally got a chance to see it, and it did not disappoint. Highly recommend going to see it. If you're a horror movie fan, if you're a fan of the books, if you are a parent looking to introduce your kids to horror movies, if you're an adult and you're not really into horror movies but you kind of have an interest, any of that stuff, go see it. Go watch it. It's cool. It's really well done. I mean, I have nothing else to really say other than that. But yeah, so definitely recommend. Check it out. And if you can, subscribe to our channel. Oh, also, leave a comment down below. Did you see the movie? What did you think? I'm curious. I want to know if people have impressions of the movie. If you have any questions about the movie or anything, you can definitely leave your comments below too. Maybe I'll answer them in another video. But yeah, for sure. Recommend, go see it. Please subscribe to our channel if you can. Follow us on Instagram at Ryan Tyler Reed. You can also follow us on Facebook. Our Facebook page is also Ryan Tyler Reed. I have an Etsy store. If any of the art you see in my videos, like on walls and things like that, you can definitely buy some of that there as well. Etsy.com/shop/Ryan Tyler Reed. I believe all the first letters of my name, Ryan Tyler Reed, RTR, they're all capitalized. So I'm rambling at this point, but please, if you liked what you saw and you want to see more, if you want to see me talk about some other movies, recommend them down in the comments below. I'm looking to go out and see some other movies this week. I don't remember what's out there, what has recently come out, or if anything is opening this week. I know there's some that I want to catch up on. Take a look out. Yeah, that's something to keep an eye out. This week I have some reviews coming out for some new Netflix stuff, so check that out. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you next time. Bye.